Is there a risk in the Bitcoin market? If you're interested in knowing more about this, please keep watching. Let's start by looking directly at the daily chart of Bitcoin. From the daily chart, we can still see a bullish trend. So, if we zoom in on the recent small pullback, on a daily time frame, it doesn't affect the current trend on the daily time frame, which is still bullish. Therefore, I'm still holding onto my previous long position, because that long position was based on the daily time frame, and this pullback doesn't affect the daily trend. Of course, trading on this larger time frame is because I'm optimistic about this upward movement. I believe this upward movement won't just stop here, as it would be structurally illogical. I hope to capture the entire move in the daily time frame, without breaking it into smaller segments, as that would increase the chances of missing out on the market's potential. Now let's move on to the 4-hour chart. On the 4-hour chart, we can see some differences. Indeed, we have encountered some risks on the 4-hour chart. The price movement is still within this box pattern, but there are a few important signals on the 4-hour chart that are worth discussing. Firstly, you may notice that on the 4-hour time frame, a bearish structure has been formed. This means the moving averages have turned bearish. Turning bearish is a slightly more dangerous signal in the upcoming market movement. If we see a candlestick closing below the lower boundary of the range, that would indicate that long positions are quite risky. In other words, the level of this pullback could potentially expand significantly. Now, taking a more conservative approach, from the 4-hour perspective, we have, firstly, already shifted to a bearish configuration on the 4-hour time frame. Secondly, you can notice that we have experienced a reversal here. Previously, the support was approximately $30,300 to $30,400 several times. But then the price broke below it, and after breaking it, it failed to retest and move back up, which is a very bearish signal. This means that the previous support has now become resistance, and the moving averages have also turned bearish. Under this overlapping situation, even though the range hasn't been broken, we have indeed encountered some risks on the 4-hour chart. At this point, there are two possibilities. I know many of you are holding long positions. If you believe that the current market conditions are favorable, and you think this bullish trend has the potential to continue for a long time, you can choose to be more aggressive and continue holding your position. Personally, I tend to take a more aggressive approach. Of course, some of you commented that my approach is more aggressive. However, if you prefer a more conservative approach, meaning you believe that this upward movement is likely to reach a maximum of around $30,000, maybe not even reaching $40,000, or breaking slightly higher than that, then you can choose to partially close your position or completely exit it, depending on your personal judgment of the future market. I personally take a more aggressive approach. Now, let's take a look at the 1-hour chart. From the 1-hour perspective, we can observe that the volume is currently extremely low, which is expected given that we are on the weekend. Low volume and oscillation are both within expectations. Now, let's switch to Ethereum. As for Ethereum, I have already exited my long position. I don't think it's worth holding a long position on Ethereum. As you can see, during this recent pullback, Ethereum has experienced a much deeper decline compared to Bitcoin. It has retraced even the strong upward move that occurred earlier. Lastly, let's discuss funding rates. Now, let's examine its relevance. Why do we consider this data? If we look at the previous bullish trends, we can identify a few instances of the lowest points during pullbacks. In terms of funding rates, we can observe certain patterns. First, there's a point that most of you may remember vividly. Back then, we experienced oscillation, followed by a breakdown and a rapid rebound. At the bottom of that move, funding rates were heavily negative and quite extreme. Such a situation often indicates a bearish sentiment and acts as the starting point for an upward movement. Since it's the starting point of an upward move, the number of long positions is relatively small compared to short positions. So, you can see that it's quite accurate. Then, at the current position, you can also notice that, although the sentiment is not as obvious as before, there is still a higher proportion of short positions. Now let's talk about the bottommost point. At that time, after the FTX incident, Bitcoin was trading around $15,500 to $16,000. It's around there. You can see that the bearish sentiment was extremely strong at that time. When bearish sentiment is strong, Bitcoin's price tends to rebound from the bottom. You can observe that the recent market movements have followed this pattern. So, you may wonder if it's no longer effective. In my opinion, it's still effective. At least, when we try to assess whether it will lead to a significant market movement, it remains valid. Now, let's take a look at the current funding rates. If we scan through, you'll notice that the funding rates on major exchanges are generally below the base price. When funding rates are below the base price, it indicates a stronger bearish sentiment. Even if there is a downward movement at this point, I believe it's unlikely to result in a sharp plunge. At most, it would be a gradual decline, especially when considering the current trading volume. Alright, thank you. If you're interested in trading, I welcome you to click any of my YouTube videos and scroll down to register with Bybit. Now, by completing KYC and depositing $100, you will immediately receive a $1,000 worth of Bitcoin contract position. You can choose a long or short position. This is a real position. When you make a profit, you can directly withdraw it. And it's an instant giveaway. There's no need to wait. Like many other promotions, this is truly a very attractive offer. Feel free to click the link below and register an account with Bybit. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.